Percent problems as proportions. Percent is a way of comparing sets of numbers. So we're going to look at Harry Potter theme today, and we're going to look at this example. Harry Potter took a test and he got 45 out of 55. Hermione took a test and she got 48 out of 50. And Ron took a test and he got 35 out of 45. Who did better, and how do you know? This happens a lot in real life where you have a bunch of data that's hard to compare. Because Harry's test was out of 55 points, Hermione's test was out of 50 points, and Ron's test was out of 45. So it's not really easy to see who did better. So one way is to use percent to compare the sets of numbers. It's a really good way, and you'll see it all over the world when you start looking for it. Percents are everywhere. So the way we can make a percent is, remember, percent is out of 100. So we take Harry's score and we make it a part out of a whole. He scored 45 out of 55. Okay, percent is out of 100, which most of you already know. So I say, I don't know what it is out of 100, but I want to know, so that's my x. So now I've created a proportion. I put the part on the top, which is the percent, out of the whole on the bottom, which is 100, or 45 out of 55. Okay, cross multiply, and I have 55 times x equals 45 times 100, which is 4,500 or 4,500. In order to get x by itself, I divide both sides by 55, and I get my answer, which has to be a little bit rounded to make this a nice problem, so it's going to be an 82%. Okay, not bad, Harry. Okay, Hermione gets a 45 out of 50. 48 out of 50. So again, my part is 48, 50 is my whole, x is my percent that I don't know, out of 100 because it's always out of 100. And now I'm going to figure out what this is. I could cross multiply, but there are easier ways to do this problem because 50 goes straight into 100. How many times? Times 2. How many times? Times 2. Okay, or I could do a proportion cross multiplication. 50x equals 4,800. Divide by 50. Divide by 50. And I get x equals 96%. Ooh, nice. Okay, Ron gets 35 out of 45. Again, part to whole equals x over 100. Cross multiply, 45x equals 3,500. Divide both sides by 45. And I get Ron getting a 78%. So who did better? Hermione. Is that a big surprise? I don't know, but let's hear what she has to say.
You are brilliant, Hermione, truly.
Actually, I'm highly logical, which allows me to look past extraneous detail and perceive clearly that which others overlook.
Yeah.
Okay, Hermione. All right, moving along. So we said percent means out of 100. So, ooh, that's a cool movie. Okay, so 45% you can write in a variety of ways, but 45% we already know is 45 out of 100, right? So if you think back to the old days of learning fractions and decimals, you were meant to say this, not 45 over 100 or 45 numerator, 100 denominator. Instead, you should have said 45 hundredths. Well, what does that look like in a decimal? 45 hundredths. Oh, that looks like this as a decimal. 0.45, because the 5 is in the hundredths place. So that's how you would write a percent as a decimal. That's how you would write it as a fraction. But really, that fraction's not all the way reduced. Instead, I need to make this more reduced, which would actually say divide both top and bottom by 5, 9 over 20. So 9/20ths is the same as 45%, and 0.45 or 45 hundredths is the same as 45%. 85%, same thing. 85 over 100. Is that okay? No, I need to reduce it. So 5 goes into 85, how many times? 17 times, and 5 goes into 100, 20 times. So 17/20ths would be my best fraction, and 85 hundredths would be 0.85. Oh, okay. So that looks pretty easy. You just move the decimal 2 places to the left. Well, if I were to jump ahead to this one, 2%, okay, 2 out of 100, which actually would reduce to 1 out of 50. But what does that look like in a decimal form? 2/100ths. Okay, well, let's be really careful. That's the tenths place, so I have to put a 0, and 2 is in the hundredths place. Again, the decimal moves 2 places to the left to give me 0.02. Okay, part to whole, same thing. We've got a total running time of all the Harry Potter movies it was 19.6 hours. The total running time of Chamber of Secrets was 2.6 hours. So what's my part and what's my whole? Well, the part is 2.6. The whole is 19.6. And if I want to turn that into percent, I would do x over 100. Once again, cross multiply times 100 equals 19.6 x, and then I'd solve. And I'm not going to go through all the details of the steps, but basically when I solve that, I get 13.3%. So that means out of all of the movies, all the Harry Potter movies, Chamber of Secrets is 13.3% of the time. Okay? And I'm trying to get you a great word here, but it's not working for me. So we'll try one more time. Okay, moving along.
Don't think this changes anything.
Well, we'll see here about that, Miss Hermione Granger. Okay, so moving along, we've got another kind of problem that you're going to encounter, which is percent problems that look like this. Blank is blank percent of blank. So here are 3 examples. 8 is 15% of what number? What is 70% of 60? 9 is what percent of 30? So you see how it's a number, or what, is 15%, what percent, of, what number, 60, 30. So it's always going to be in that format. So again, we're looking at, there's 2 different ways to do this. Basically, we're looking at the part to the whole equals the percent over 100. Okay, so the 100's always going to be there. So I start by doing that. Now, where's the percent? Right here, it's 15%. So I put 15 over 100. That was easy. Okay, now I've got 8 and I've got what number? Which one's the part and which one's the whole? Let's think about it. 8 is 15% of what number? Of is typically referring to out of the whole number. So what number is my x, and that's going to be my whole. 8 is going to be my part. Once I've got it set up in a proportion, I cross multiply to solve. I'm not going to do that right now. Okay, what is 70% of 60? Again, I've got a part to a whole equals percent over 100. So let's think about this. 70 is my percent. That's the easy part. 70 out of 100. Okay, good. Now where's my part and where's my whole? What is 70% of 60? Oh yeah, of is referring to my whole. This number here is referring to my part and it's unknown. So there's my x, my unknown. Then I cross multiply to solve. Finally, same thing. If I do part to whole, I've got 9 out of 30. What percent is x out of 100? And then I cross multiply to solve. Now, if I'm going to do this a different way, it's called the equation method. I translate this directly into an equation. 8 is means equals. 15% would be 15 over 100 of times what number? X. Now I've got an equation that I can solve. I will get the same answer. What x is equals 70%, 70 over 100 of times 60, 60. Well, that's just a multiplication problem. 9 is equals what percent? X of times 30. Done. Solve. Okay, oops. All right, finally, moving along. Oops, I keep doing that. Let's try again. Dumbledore earns 8% commission on all Hogwarts Express train tickets. How much money has to be spent on train tickets for Dumbledore to earn $336 to buy a new sorting hat? Oh, Dumbledore. He needs a new sorting hat. So, if we go ahead and look at this one, this is a little bit more difficult. We've got 8% commission. All right, well, let's again think of my part to my whole. I know 8 is my part and 100 is my whole because that's 8%. Okay, how much money has to be spent on train tickets for Dumbledore to earn $336 to buy a new sorting hat? Well, is $336 the part or the whole? It's actually the part, $336, because that's going to be his commission out of total train tickets. Now I've got this set up in a proportion. As soon as I can get two fractions equal to one another, I can move forward and solve. Well, that concludes our percent proportion unit. Good luck on the problems.